So who's the freshman colt to beat now? The juvenile field suffered a major blow yesterday with the defection of one of the most discussed runners of BC 31. And he's not the only Breeders' Cup horse out. In from Keeneland, we got our first look at Wesley Ward's globe-trotting 2-year-old filly. And we'll have the world premiere of Gary Stevens' A Reckoning as the pursuit is back on.
Skywalker is still there, carrying a huge upset looming here, and they're coming down to the finish, and it is pleasantly perfect. Raven Pass and Frankie Natari have won the class. Zenyatta, what a performance, one we'll never forget.
Brought to you by Fasig-Tipton, home of North America's first thoroughbred auction company. Fasig-Tipton, get in the game. And TwinSpires.com, the best online wagering experience in racing. Visit TwinSpires.com to sign up today. Another perfect morning here at Santa Anita Park as we had plenty of activity and plenty to report to you here on this edition of Pursuit. Shared Belief, he's been bedded down in now his Santa Anita stall after vanning down following his work yesterday at Golden Gate Fields, and California Chrome getting a little gate work. One of the things they constantly work on with the Kentucky Derby and Preakness champion. He's had issues in the gate, but no issue there as he just strolls out right near the gap, right near Clocker's Corner here at Santa Anita Park. And we welcome you to this Wednesday edition of Pursuit. Scott Hazelton alongside Richard Migliori. Mig, big breaking news at the races reporting that Magician, Breeders' Cup Turf champion, looking to defend his title, will not here in 2014. From the reports from at the races, Breeders' Cup now officially reporting he is out of the Breeders' Cup Turf.
Yeah, it's a shame, you think, to ship all this way, to come here trying to defend your title. But the biggest thing we have to look at is it's what's right for the horses. They didn't come here thinking they were going to have to scratch. They were coming here to win. But at the end of the day, if something's not quite right, better to be safe, bring them home, and make sure the horses are okay. It's too big a stage to take a chance with any of these horses. Well, on any stage, you can't take a chance with these horses.
The program is bigger than one single horse. That's the bottom line when we're talking about Breeders' Cup or any other marquee day of racing. The program is bigger, so even though we lose some of these horses, it still makes for a great card of racing. So no Magician in the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf. But time now for our Pursuit News Update brought to you by OCD Pellets. For more information, go to OCDpellets.com. Caton, defections, the theme of the last 24 hours here at Santa Anita.
Well, Scott, with a record number of entries originally, it's not surprising that we do have a few defections. This morning, we learned that Free as a Bird got on the plane and injured, suffering a minor head injury. Now, purely superficial. This reported by DRF's Marty McGee on Twitter earlier today. The horse should be okay, but did not make the plane trip, will sit out the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint that moves Fairhill-based Ageless into the mix. Yesterday, the Mora camp reporting that Handsome Mike out of the mile. They said nothing serious. He's just not 100%. And again, better safe than sorry. And of course, right after we left you on Pursuit of the Cup yesterday, the news coming from Bob Baffert's camp about American Pharoah. He too not 100% right. Devastating news to both the Zayat stable for the colt that probably would have been one of the shortest prices on the Breeders' Cup program. And here now a bit from a very emotional Bob Baffert in that press conference yesterday.
All right, I just want to let everybody know that, along with you're aware of it, that American Pharoah has been withdrawn from the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. After his work, he worked great. Yesterday morning we noticed he wasn't quite 100%, he was just a little bit off, and so we were working on a foot, and later in the afternoon he was just, I wasn't really comfortable with it. We put him through, we x-rayed him and ultrasound him. Everything's, you know, clean, so we're not, we're hoping it's the foot and something, whatever's going on there, but it's just to the point where he's just so, and we all know what a great horse he is, how valuable he is, so I don't want to risk it. Mr. Zayat didn't want to risk it because this is probably the most, I've had horses, you know, scratch close to a race, but this is probably the most disappointing because we all saw the way he was training. He was just, you know, he's something special. I haven't had a colt like this in a long time, so pretty tough pill to swallow. It's but he looks, you know, he's going to be okay, but it's just the timing is a killer.
Now this morning, Bob Baffert reported that nuclear scan was taken on the left front foot. That's where they believe the problem lies. He expects to get the results of that scan in the next day or two. That's who's out. Here's who's in, quite literally on the grounds at Santa Anita, arriving yesterday afternoon about 4 o'clock. The rest of the Pletcher horses joining Angela Renee. They were out on the track this morning. Shared Belief was here as well. He walked the shed at Santa Anita this morning after working yesterday at Golden Gate. And there's Tonalist. He arrived yesterday too with assistant Christophe L'Oreal.
He seems to be very well this morning. They arrived last night by FedEx, and we were here about 8 o'clock last night, and everything is good so far. Well, we'll work on the mantle. So basically, all the work has been done at home. You know, he had a very good work, last week, and so basically just work on the mantle today, jog once around, and then try to go by the paddock, the saddling area, just to work on them, just in order to settle and get used to their new surrounding. Yeah. Go to different places, and actually it's the first time we ever shipped him somewhere, outside, the East Coast. So we'll see. Usually pretty good mentally, and it just I expect, for him to be okay the first few days and get better every day, I would say. And we'll probably try to school him sometime this morning or this afternoon. Yeah, it's about the same feeling all year round. We've never had any horses like him. It's a complete different ball game for us. He's a top-class dirt horse. We had one before called I Never. That was okay, but this one is a classic winner, obviously. The excitement. It's a very big deal for us. Belmont was superb. Jockey Club was even better, and now the Classic is the epitome. So we'll try to make it happen.
Now, the last group to arrive from Kentucky is en route. This photo posted on Twitter this morning from Bourbon Lane Stable of Bourbon Courage, part of that last contingent coming from Kentucky. Also on that plane, a trio of horses for Wesley Ward, including Judy the Beauty, No Nay Never, and Undrafted. They all had to receive special dispensation due to the mechanical problems with the plane in Kentucky, everything being pushed back. All Breeders' Cup horses were supposed to be on the grounds by this morning, Wednesday, but again, due to the special circumstances, they did get that special dispensation. We'll see them around 10 o'clock this morning at Ontario Airport. Scott.
Every year we come into the Breeders' Cup, and there are some horses that are constantly talked about. And over the last 48 hours, I've heard a lot of discussion about Bill Mott and Jake Ballas and Rashard Lewis's Cigar Street. Draws post position number 2 at 12-1, very lightly raced. This will be his 9th start, but he could not look better right now as we go live out on the track. You think this rider's arms are going to be a little sore after this?
Yeah, he's getting some work out here. His Cigar Street just wants to get it on, and of course this rider's got to say, you know what, let's save it for Saturday. He is one of the most outstandingly beautiful horses I've ever seen in my life. He just is an imposing individual, and he looks the picture on the track this morning.
Unreal how good he looks out on the track right now. 3rd off the layoff. If you like that angle, that's going to work with Cigar Street in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Bayern, getting a look at him out on the course. Saw him work out a few days ago, and he's looked good in all of his subsequent trips to the race course for Bob Baffert and Kaleem Shaw.
He looks terrific, and you got to feel for everybody in the Bob Baffert camp losing American Pharoah, for the race. But Bayern looks terrific, and what can you say? He's going to be the pace factor, and it's what Moreno does is going to tell how Bayern does.
Tonalist out on the track earlier this morning for Christophe Clement. Easy jog around the course.
Yeah, and look how professional he is. He looks tremendous. He's had a really long, strong campaign, and he's held his weight tremendously. His coat is great, and I think the path to the winner's circle is through Tonalist.
Sticking with Tonalist.
I've got my top 3. I might shuffle the deck, but right now Tonalist is still number 1.
Hey, you preempted us, though, at the beginning of the week and said you are a homer, so we will take it with a grain of salt.
I am, but then I should go with Toast to New York.
Fair enough. He was the toast to Dubai in the UAE Derby. He has worked out on the dirt course that came at some point in Europe, and now here he is for Jamie Osborne and Michael Buckley, a very small purchase price of $35,000 back in 2012 at the Keeneland January sale. He's won 3 of his 7 starts, and now he's stepping up yet again to take on the big boys on the dirt this time.
Well, he's a world traveler, though, isn't he? I wonder how his frequent flyer miles are. He probably can get a free vacation to, like, Hawaii when this is all done.
Toast to New York. Final ride for Jamie Spencer, a man who's been so successful over the course of his career, including 2004 Irish champion jockey, as well as 05 and 07 British champion jockey. He was kind enough to swing by earlier this morning to Kate and Bradar to discuss his rides this week in the Breeders' Cup.
Jamie, a number of horses to talk about, but we'll start with the Classic and Toast of New York. You've had experience with them on a variety of surfaces. Tell me your thoughts heading into the Classic.
Yeah, obviously he's a high-class horse, and you know he's shown good ability, and he ran very well in the Pacific Classic last time. Obviously, Shared Belief is genuine favourite, but you know hopefully my guy can improve for dirt.
He's been successful on all weather. He's been successful on the turf, and he's competed at the highest level. Do North Americans, do we all make too much out of the fact that he's never run on the dirt before, or is there a question?
Well, there's always a question when there's an unknown, and it's unknown whether he'll truly handle it, but we can only live in hope, and the horse is in great shape. The trainer's very happy with him, so there's not much more we can do.
Just a Judge was impressive in Canada. How confident are you she can take her show with her on such short rest?
Yeah, she didn't really have a hard race in Canada because it was a slow pace and a quick finish, but you know, she felt well, and Charlie's very happy with her. So she seems fresh and well, so we'll have to see.
Your thoughts on Wet Sail, Prize Exhibit, both running in their respective juvenile turf races?
Well, Wet Sail's got a nice draw in 1. He's a pacey horse. He's going up from 1,200 to a mile, so you know he has to prove he stays the distance, but he's bred to. So yeah, he's got a nice draw, so she'll get a good run around. The opposite is for Prize Exhibit. She's drawn out in 13, so she'll need a lot of luck.
A couple other horses as well. Of the whole contingent, is there any one race or one horse you're most looking forward to riding?
I suppose Trade Storm's got a good chance in the mile. He's got Tornado to beat, but it's a very open race otherwise, and his form ties in with a lot of the American horses, so he's got to have a good chance. He's drawn in 8, so I've got options from that draw, and be looking forward to him.
Jimmy, with this being your final Breeders' Cup appearance and one of your final rides professionally, how are you feeling? What are your thoughts about kind of bringing the career to a curtain?
Yeah, nothing lasts forever, so you know it's end of an era, but that's the way life goes.
Well done. We wish you success and safe rides.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Well, can Jamie's final ride end on a high note in the Breeders' Cup Classic win? If so, it would come with Toast of New York, a man that started off his career with a win at the age of 17, getting his first Classic in 1998 in the 1,000 Guineas in Ireland aboard Tarascon. So he could bookend his career with some big victories. Jamie Spencer, looking forward to seeing him compete on racing's biggest stage. When we come back here on Pursuits, we'll jump over to the Distaff division and give you looks at the likes of Stanwyck and L'Amour de Mabie on the track this morning. To you by Basic-Tipton, an all-time great place to buy all-time great racehorses. No one has a longer pedigree, and TwinSpires.com. Wager on the go with TwinSpires mobile smartphone app. TwinSpires.com, where players win. Friday feature, the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff Grade 1 Company going a mile and an eighth, 7:35 Eastern Time. Is post time untappable, looking to become just the second Kentucky Oaks filly in the same year to win the Breeders' Cup Distaff. The only one came back in 2004 with a shadow for Todd Pletcher, but we are going to focus our attention on Stanwyck. She is a filly that this time last year, Richie, was winning the Turn Back the Alarm. Much different 2014 for the daughter of Empire Maker, even though she's winless on the year.
Yeah, she is winless, but she's been taking on considerably tougher horses. I thought her Chuvie was very good in Saratoga, and then she just seemed to lose her form a bit, and I'm just not seeing, you know, the form that she had last year coming into this. I thought early in the year, the Apple Blossom races like that, you said, well, this is something to build on, but it seemed to go awry somewhere.
As for John Sheriffs, he's just 1 for 21 with horses not named Zenyatta in the Breeders' Cup. His one coming with Life is Sweet in the Distaff in 2009. Here's a European import. She's been globetrotting over through Europe as well as the Middle East. Spent some time in the UAE at Meydan L'Amour de Ma Vie, a mare by Dan Silly. But the interesting side of the pedigree is the Smoke Glacken on the bottom side, as she'll be taking on one of the tougher groups that she has ever seen.
And she certainly gets her color or pigment from Smoke Glacken. She looked like she galloped well over the track. And I find it interesting, the Euros seem have such a good handle on what their horses can do. And the fact that they're running around the dirt leads you to believe that she's shown them signs that she'll be better on the dirt.
She will get Lasix for the first time. L'Amour de Ma Vie breaking from post position number 1 in the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff. But time to head back trackside to Clocker's Corner, where Christina and Millie have their eyes live out on the track on Don't Tell Sophia, a filly that stepped up in a big way most recently at Keeneland.
She really has, Scott. She's earned nearly $1 million. Phil Sims has done a great job managing this filly. Back here trackside, Millie Ball joins me. And Millie, we just took a close look at L'Amour de Ma Vie. You can see why, actually, they want to try the dirt. She looks like she'll take to it just fine.
She's very wide up front, a sort of blocky-looking distaffer, but going to try the dirt for the very first time, trained by a Swedish trainer, Pierre Brandt. So she will be an interesting entry in this year's distaff. But Don't Tell Sophia, you know, Christine, the one thing I am a little concerned about with Don't Tell Sophia, as consistent as she has been, as she's coming back in 3 weeks off a victory and a very good race. I think she did benefit from Close Hatches not being herself that day, but you look at the stats for the Beldame and the Zenyatta and the doubles that they've produced as springboards with the Breeders' Cup. 6 Beldames and distaff doubles and 4 Zenyatta distaff doubles, because it's at least 4 to 5 weeks out, whereas this is 3 weeks out. You're asking a filly off a very big win to turn around and come back, and I've always believed that the fillies need a little bit more time between races. Phil Sims, though, never been to Santa Anita. What an introduction to California.
His very first trip out here, bringing this mare here, 6-year-old daughter of Congaree. Fortunately, the spinster on dirt this year, so perhaps we'll see that race be a little bit more productive. Jockey Joe Rocco will be aboard. He's been the regular rider on Don't Tell Sophia as of late. Just his second time riding the Breeders' Cup. He rode the juvenile fillies a couple of years back. So Don't Tell Sophia, she is fresh, just a couple races off a little layoff. She'll be 3rd off the break into the distaff, but she will need to run the race of her life to beat the likes of Untappable, and if Close Hatches does rebound off that disappointing race last time. We'll take a step aside here on Pursuit of the Cup. When we come back, lots to bring you with regard to the international report. You heard off the top of the show, breaking news, Magician, the defending Breeders' Cup Turf champion, is out. We'll have news on that and more on Brown Panther, who is in the race. Welcome back to Pursuit of the Cup. Time now for the international report. We're back here at the Clocker set, and we go to the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf. $3 million on the line. Here's a look at the field as they line up. But as we told you, breaking news this morning, the number 8 Magician, the defending champ, will not go postward. He is declared out of this race. Joseph O'Brien, his father, Aidan O'Brien, will not have a contender in Magician in this year's Breeders' Cup Turf. Back here on the set, Christina and Millie, and we are now joined by Fanny Salmon of Acadia. She's here from France, and she's been back at the quarantine barn getting all this late-breaking news for us. Fanny, what is the story with Magician at the 11th hour, no longer competing?
Well, at the 11th hour, everybody in Aidan O'Brien's barn is in the barn, so we haven't heard from them directly. The officialization of the news came from a Breeders' Cup official. However, he has had some issues in the past, leg issues, minor issues, but they just want to make sure that he's fine. He was apparently lame. Now, this is secondhand information. I didn't get it confirmed myself. He had some similar issues in the past. As a matter of fact, last year when he came to win the Breeders' Cup Turf, he had been off the track since June. And Aidan O'Brien had done a tremendous job, and actually we see him there winning. It was we were actually watching the race with Aidan at that point, and we had talked to him just before the race, and he had done a tremendous job. But some of these horses, you try and do everything right by them, and you don't want to take the slightest chance. So hoping to get an official word from Aidan or somebody in the team, but unfortunately, no Magician. They will have Chiquita, though. They have their fractious former French filly. She can be a bit tricky, but she'd be interesting to follow, and now she's the one they'll have to rely on.
He had sort of a tough year, Magician. He had proved that he could bounce back off of disappointing races in the past, but this season, maybe not as strong as last season. He will go to Ashford for 2015. Any other information that we have, we'll bring for you on tomorrow's International Report. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the horses that are competing, and we start with Brown Panther. It's time now for the Keys to the Cup. Brought to you by Pin Oak Stud. You can go to pinoakstud.com for more information. Millie, this is an interesting horse for Tom Dashcombe.
It is, Brown Panther, and interesting connections that own him. Michael Owen is part owner, and he's a former England striker. Now, Brown Panther, he, like Chiquita, has his own little antics. As we saw in Canada, he was getting ready for the Woodbine Canadian International, and this is what happened during the post parade. They chose not to go with a pony, and that's Richard Kingscott hitting the ground. He didn't lose him once, but twice during the post parade. Richard Kingscott was thrown from Brown Panther. He was coming off a victory in September in the Irish St. Leger, his best performance to date. And you wonder whether he's a horse that's just gone over the boil a little bit mentally here. They were trying to razz him up a little bit, I think, make sure that he got into the pace for the Canadian International. And maybe it was just a little too much before the race. As you saw there, it didn't work out. But he's been doing really well here at Santa Anita. He's been going with a pony every single day. Till today, we saw him actually galloping by himself on the turf course this morning. He went around 8 o'clock this morning, and he picked it up in the stretch, really stretched his legs. Good looking horse, Brown Panther.
He'll be a horse that we'll have to keep a close eye on all the way through the post-parade, Fanny.
Definitely, and when you think of it, he may have been frightened a bit by what happened in Canada. However, he raced in Australia. He raced in the Melbourne Cup, and the crowd there are wild and they're roaring. So I'm not sure it was maybe the only thing. It's just maybe he was just happy within himself. He's been behaving really well anyway. Really happy. He was with the pony going to the track until he actually did a bit, I think a half breeze today on the turf, and he looked really good. I had a chance to speak to Christopher Healy afterwards, and he was really happy.
Let's listen to what Christopher Healy had to say with regard to Brown Panther.
He just got a bit wound up in Canada, you know. The parade, it just really got on him. We've got a pony now. He's really took to the pony, and you know, everything's, fingers crossed, everything's going well. He's always looked really well, you know. He's always ate, he's always drank, but you know, he's coming out, he's got a sparkle in his eye, he looks so well in his coat, and we're very happy.
How do you think he will like the ground here? The turf will be a bit on the firmer side.
It's funny, everyone keeps saying this, you know, we've won on soft, we've won on heavy, we've won on good, we've won on firm, we've also won on the all-weather. So, you know, he goes on absolutely everything, you know, he's just a horse that'll adapt to everything.
Brown Panther horse that, as we mentioned, we will keep an eye on. And ladies, every day that we've seen him out on the track, he seems to be behaving just fine.
He has. I mean, here he is galloping on the turf, because you'll see he'll come around the bend and then he'll be asked to just pick it up in the stretch. He's a gorgeous looking horse. Every day when I see the Europeans out there, he's the one that jumps out to me. He's just a really imposing looking horse. And here he is. He's just going to stretch his legs. He stays on that left lead, but that's very European. They're not used to being in the habit of switching over to their right lead. He's a horse that's raced left-handed and won, which is positive. If you're looking as a handicapping aspect, he's raced right-handed as well. He seemed to have done it all. And I like what Fanny was talking about with Chiquita. She seems, I'm getting the impression from the Europeans that her talent is off the charts. It's just a matter of whether she puts her mind to racing. If she races right-handed or left-handed, she seems to drift across the course. And I asked Frankie Dettori this morning, I said, Frankie, you've never ridden Chiquita before. What are you going to do? He goes, I don't know, I'm just scared. He said, I think they want to get rid of me, finally, because I'm riding her. But no, I think that they have so much respect for her with the amount of natural ability that has. And they were saying if she puts her mind to it, she can absolutely win this race.
I was speaking to a really good Italian reporter yesterday who was telling me every time she does something weird is when she goes to the right side. And in terms of racing, yes, but pre-racing, when she races on the left-hand side, that's when she threw her jockey over the edge. So it'd be interesting to see what she does with Frankie here today going left-handed.
It's also interesting with regard to the rest of the races for the remainder of the afternoon for Frankie Dettori. We're going to have to see how Chiquita does. We do have some more news with regard to the international horses. We move to the Juvenile Fillies Turf Division. Millie, we just learned of this about 15 minutes ago, this with regard to Prize Exhibit. What's the news on her?
Well, in the Juvenile Fillies Turf, Prize Exhibit will now be actually going to Jim Cassidy's barn. While she's here, she will remain where she is and race under the name, with the trainer of Jamie Osborne. But her connections now, her new connections, DP Racing. She was sold by Michael Butley, the original owner, and she will race in those colors, DP Racing. So new silks for Prize Exhibit and remaining with the same trainer, Jamie Osborne, until after the Breeders' Cup.
That's the second sale of a Juvenile Fillies Turf that we have this week. Bobby Flay purchased an interest in Quality Rocks earlier this week. She will run under the name of Flavor Racing, but still for Bill Mott. We'll step aside for another timeout here on Pursuit of the Cup. When we come back, Gary Stevens, a reckoning, the man that took down the Distaff and the Classic last year. He is back 3 months post full knee replacement surgery. 2 Breeders' Cup mounts with Bakken and Civolier.
For Hall of Famer Gary Stevens, last year the victories equaled success, but here in 2014, it's the presence that defines success following full knee replacement.
In 2014 has been a reckoning for me, I guess, because 2013 was a dream that I didn't expect. I won't even say a dream, it was a fantasy come true. I had the ride of a lifetime in 16 months. I'd never won a Breeders' Cup Classic and had been favored to win one 4 or 5 times over the years.
Memorable performance under Gary Stevens.
It was on my definite top of the bucket list.
Will take charge. Macho Man just keeps on finding on the lead. Will take charge. A late run.
And it was something that was really missing on my trophy cabinet. I didn't realize how much of a secret I'd kept it from myself, that I said, well, I've accepted it and never won it. And I'm not ready for it to end. I knew that the day was going to come, and I said it when the comeback started. There's going to be a day that these knees are going to shout, no, I need a break. I'm not going to announce a retirement. I'm going to take some time off and let the knees cool out.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
And I knew it was going to be sudden when it happened. You know, to me, this is just something that's, I won't say it's a hiccup, because it's probably the most major surgery that I've had.
Before. Oh my.
There's no timeline for me, so I was off for 7 years, so if this takes 6 months or 4 months or 9 months, 11 months, but saying that if it's going to take longer than 9 months without rushing it, doing it the proper way, that puts me at the end of 52 years old or whatever. My family doesn't deserve that. I got a 5-year-old little girl. They deserve more than having to worry about a middle-aged kid, more than middle-aged kid.
I'm sick and tired of Daddy's knee messing up our plan.
But are you happy he's going to get it fixed and he's going to feel better?
Yes.
And then he's going to be able to run and do fun stuff?
Yes.
This is definitely a family journey, and I keep saying we, because I feel like we're just as involved in this process as he is. Obviously, he goes under the knife. He has more to risk in that matter, but it's affecting all of us as how we're living the next 6 months and what our life's going to be like, and is he going to ride again? And even listening to Maddie say little comments like, I hate Daddy's knee, I'm sick of his knee hurting, like you realize it's affecting a 5-year-old so much just because plans change and things change, which as adults you're able to roll with, but a 5-year-old she's not as conducive to just rolling with the flow.
When I become unhappy with my performance on the racetrack, I'm not fun to be around for my family, my dogs, the race fans, trainers, and it really sort of hurts my business. But I read my body pretty well. And now, having served time as an analyst, the analyst that's analyzing Gary Stevens, the jockey, and is he performing at the level that's expected of him over his career, at the level that's required to perform at the highest in the sport? And the answer was no.
I've seen how much happier he is while he's riding than when he's not. So in my mind, when he kept saying, let's wait till the Breeders' Cup and then I can do it, I just thought this is postponing the inevitable and you're just going to be that much more miserable for that much longer. And you might not even make the Triple Crown with your recovery.
I'm just glad you're the first surgery in the morning, you know?
I don't know if I am.
8 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think you would be.
So if you're in that much pain now and you can't get around the racetrack, do it today.
We'll leave our stuff in and get it. I'll come get it later, yeah.
Yeah, can I get my iPad?
Yeah.
Gary is a competitor, is tough, and we see that in a lot of athletes. They may be a little stoic, or they may be in a little bit of denial because they just want to keep competing. But he had significant structural changes in his knee. His meniscus was gone. He had worn deep grooves into his tibial plateau. His cruciate ligaments were deficient, and his leg was crooked and off to the side. He couldn't straighten it. He told me that when he was riding, whenever the horse took a sudden movement, he would feel the two bones hit together. It was a very bad knee.
Okay, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
That had become much worse over the course of many years.
Here you go, bud. Take care, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
There's always second guessing of myself. And I've said before, I'm my own worst critic. That's part of my drive, I guess, is fear of failure. And this is really kind of uncharted territory. One thing I'm looking forward to is if I am successful in this, it'll be the first time in over 30 years I'm going to be able to ride pain-free, at least in this joint.
Okay, now I'm going to have you bend up, okay? I'm going to measure you. Just bend up until you really start to feel it. Good. It's not hurting too bad?
No, I feel pressure, but it's not what I'm used to feeling.
Good, okay.
Just more pressure from the bandage, it feels like, you know, it's kind of... That's okay. As far as I can get it to bend, but it's not killing me, you know.
Good. You're at 110. That's one of the highest I've ever seen right after surgery.
And this is what, 5 hours after surgery? Like, kind of impressive. You know what, I don't really see this as something that would bring a dark time back out because he's doing this to get back to where he was. I think we'd have a much better chance of going into a dark time if the doctor said to Gary, I don't think you're going to be able to ride again. I think that's when that's going to be experienced, not so much when he's doing something where he thinks now, I can maybe come back at a higher level and perform even better.
Maddie's not used to me being home as much as I've been home this past week. She's seeing a side of Dad that she doesn't normally get to see, and it's been good in a way. This morning's probably been one of our roughest days since the surgery. Me being a little bit frustrated when I woke up this morning. It's been hard on everybody. But Angie's been amazing.
turkey. Female turkeys don't gobble. They don't say gobble gobble.
I know that I'm doing more than most people can do after a knee replacement. I'm kind of known for my patience in riding races, of waiting for things to develop and to happen and to come with my run. And unfortunately, in real life, my patience aren't as good as they are on the racetrack sometimes when I'm competing. I want things right now. I wish I could just go to sleep for 2 weeks and wake up and I'll be to that point where when I can really start pushing it.
Well, I think we went into it and people were telling him 6 months to a year. Then when he heard from the doctor, it's 8 weeks to heal the bone, 12 weeks to heal the muscle. So in his mind, he's like, that's 3 months. In 3 months, I can be doing whatever. So I think he realizes, okay, is it possible I could be back by the start of the meet, December 26th? Sure. But I think he also realizes if he's in the pain he's in now, there's no way he can train at that level. It's up to him. It's like if he gets on a horse and says he doesn't feel as comfortable, if he doesn't, then he won't ride.
Yeah, I'm several months away from a return. I mean, I really don't have anything to fear. If I make it back, it's a bonus, but in saying that, I expect to make it back. I expect to get a bonus for going through what I've put myself through. As far as the pain and everything, it's to a level now that I can control it, and I'm in charge of my own destiny. Hey, Bob, 3 weeks today. You know, it's only been 3 weeks. All right. And a lot of them are in shock to see me walking around without a cane. You know, the old out of sight, out of mind, that can hurt you. Because I do plan on coming back. All right, man. Be careful. I will. You going racing tonight? And I want them to see the transformation. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not saying, oh, it's this and that. Unfortunately, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't like keeping secrets, you know. It is what it is. I drove down here myself without my family, with nothing but the radio on. That was my independence. I need my independence. I always have. And now I'm getting my independence back.
And that journey continues here in Southern California, Breeders Cup 31. Gary Stevens will be back in the saddle. What sort of emotions roll through you as you watch that piece, Richie?
Well, just it's just so remarkable that he's actually going to compete in the Breeders' Cup after going through this. And the first thing I thought is probably good that it was his right knee that had to have the surgery, because a rider's left knee seems to take so much more pressure. In America, we race left-handed all the time. But it's a lot of emotions when you watch him driving himself to the hospital in the morning. That's one of the most surreal experiences you'll ever have in your life. It's one thing when you go down in an accident and they pick you up and they take you to the hospital. Everybody else is making decisions. You don't have to think about it. But when you know you're going to sleep the night before and you got to get up early in the morning and drive to the hospital to have surgery, it's too much time to think about it. But I am just all my respect and just I'm so impressed that Gary could do this. And you think at 51 years old to have the desire and the motivation to get back to this level, I mean, my hat's off to him.
No question about it. I think there were very few people that had any doubt that Gary would end up back in the saddle. I think some of us doubted that it would be this quick. The bottom line is he's back on horse. He's been cleared by doctors. He's been working horses in the morning. And don't sleep on Gary Stevens in Breeders' Cup 31, because he's been saying for years that he could always compete on this level, and he showed us last year in the Distaff as well as the Breeders' Cup Classic. All right, when we come back here on Pursuit live from Santa Anita Park, we'll jump over to the youngsters, take a look at the juvenile fillies turf. Sunset Glow, she was on the track yesterday for Wesley Ward. Brought to you by Fasig-Tipton, an all-time great place to buy all-time great racehorses. Get in the game. And TwinSpires.com, your home for online wagering. Visit TwinSpires.com and join today for a $100 sign-up bonus. Well, she's already beaten 20 Euros. That came at Ascot. Sunset Glow, she was beaten by 1, but Cursory Glance is a beast. And she was out on the track yesterday morning on the turf course for Wesley Ward, 7-2 morning line favorite for Friday afternoon's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. Wesley 0 for 16 with his Breeders' Cup starters, Richie, but she could be the one to get him that first one, because Zoe Cadman has continued to remind us that they have had trouble finding a horse fast enough to keep up with her in her workouts in the morning at Keeneland.
And she's just an amazing filly. You think about the campaign she's put together: Presque Isle, Belmont Park, Ascot, Del Mar, now Santa Anita, and she's only 2. So it speaks volumes about her mental constitution as well as her physical constitution. And she's beautiful. Man, she's just coming through the stretch like a little deer with her ears forward. She's absolutely stunning.
Sienna Farm is sending out this Escondrea filly. Isabella Sings. Johnny Velasquez rides for the first time. She broke her maiden in July at Belmont Park. First time out going 3/4, was recently second, flashing some speed over the yielding course at Woodbine in the Natalma.
Yeah, she's a nice filly, and she's won on the lead sprinting, so you know she has speed, and then she came from off the pace in the Natalma. So, you know, she's adaptable, and I think she'll be able to get position going forward, but doesn't necessarily have to be the pace.
Switching over to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Division, this part of the Saturday card. Big defection of American Pharoah. New morning line, as you can see, Daredevil installed at 5-2. Recently, half of Daredevil, the son of More Than Ready, purchased by Windstar Farm, so they should have a big say in this Breeders' Cup, also owning half of Carpe Diem. But Daredevil, does this race now squarely go through this colt who earned a triple-digit buyer in the Grade 1 Champagne?
Yes, I believe so. You know, even though he drew poorly, I think with the defection of American Pharoah, he's able to clear, dictate things. He's 2 for 2 on off tracks, but talking with Todd Pletcher, he almost scratched him first time out when it came up muddy, because he trained so well on a fast track, he didn't want to take a chance, and he thinks he's better on a dry track.
Lucky Player is going to give trainer Steve Asmussen his first Breeders' Cup Juvenile starter since 2007, when he sent out Pyro and Kodiak Cowboy. They were 2nd and 3rd in that common race behind Warpass, who ran off and hid at Monmouth Park. So you look at the horses that Steve has sent out in the Juvenile. He sent out 4. They are there for a reason. They're not just there because they can be there. He sends out some live horses, has sent out live horses in the Juvenile in the past, and it's been a long time since he's had a 2-year-old colt in this race.
Well, and I think that's one of the keys to Steve Asmussen's success, is that he runs horses where he believes they are competitive. He doesn't just show up to be part of the party. And this horse actually touted me. When he went by me this morning, Lucky Player, when I was out on the apron, kind of bucking and squealing, and I like that it's his 5th start. He's got 2 starts around 2 turns, so he has foundation, and I believe in that with young horses. Lucky Player is a live long shot.
The horses that Asmussen has started in the Juvenile Cuvée back in 2003, mentioned Kodiak Cowboy and Pyro. Private Vow back in 2005. He was 14th, but his rein broke that afternoon at Belmont Park. He was one of the favorites for that race. Things could have been a lot different for Private Vow that afternoon out in Elmont, New York. All right, when we come back here on Pursuit, another visit to the Breeders' Cup Social Circle, and the man with the most opportunities this 2014, we'll tell you when Pursuit returns.
Oh, the wheels on the Breeders' Cup Social Circle bus go round and can be a tiring trek. This tweet from Zayat Stable sent out of a very tired American Pharoah. Who can blame him? I know more than a few people can relate that are here in Southern California. It's It's been retweeted several times as well. Just adorable of a very sleepy American Pharoah. Daily Racing Form's Barbara Livingston with a typically breathtaking shot of Don't Tell Sophia, distaff contender, looking very peaceful and tranquil despite all the excitement and the majesty of this moment. And flashback to the cover of the Daily Racing Form in the first ever Breeders Cup event. Hashtag from Kenny Mayne, it worked. Hashtag Scott, it worked indeed.
Yeah, here we are 31 years later, and on that cover was Princess Rooney, and she worked out all right in that very first distaff.
Yeah, I would say so. She dominated, didn't she?
She certainly did. We mentioned going away to break, the man with the most opportunities here in 2014. That is none other than Chad Brown. How things have changed since 2008, where he went 1 for 1 in his first ever Breeders' Cup. Now here he is sending out this group of horses, including Zevo in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Well, I think going 1 for 1 back then kind of fired that shot that said, I'm going to be a guy to be reckoned with, and his stable has grown steadily, and he's having a career year, and obviously a lot of live horses this year.
Is there one single standout that you find in that group of 11?
No, I don't. I think he's very live in a lot of his spots, but I wouldn't say there's one standout. His juveniles on the turf have run so well in New York, I'd have to think they're going to be pretty tough. And I think Zevo is going to have something to say about the outcome of the Classic.
And he always keeps on coming, Zevo. He should be able to pick up some pieces. I mentioned that started out 1 for 1 in the Breeders' Cup. Chad Brown, since Myram's victory back in 2008, he's gone 1 for 22 in the Breeders' Cups. Starts Zagora back in 2012, picking up the Filly Mare Turf and subsequently picking up the Eclipse Award just a few weeks later. Fanny Salmon just did confirm that with Aidan O'Brien, Magician officially out of the Breeders' Cup turf, and says that Magician will head to Lexington, Kentucky to begin his stallion career at Ashford Stud, Coolmore's Ashford Stud. We knew that he was going to wrap up his racing career following the turf, but we didn't realize that this was going to come without a start in the Breeders' Cup turf. So that has been the story of the morning. Marchman out on the track right now as we take a look as he gets ready for the turf sprint.
Yeah, he had a decent work the other day, kind of a maintenance move, and even Kent DeZormo, his rider, riding for his brother, stated yesterday he's going to have to step his game up and run the race of his life. But we've seen things happen down the hill, and you get the right trip, you can win on the 4th or 5th best horse down the hill, get the right trip, and Kent certainly a lot of experience on that unique turf course.
You ready to step up your game? Are you starting to visualize these races like you did so well through your riding career?
Well, I don't know about that, but it's starting to come into focus. I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident about what I'm seeing. Still no real standouts like Crescillium yet, but we'll get there.
We got plenty of time. Yeah. Plenty more left here on Pursuit. We'll see you again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time.